melt this when I'm ocean wave.
Today on UVA Legends, I have Michael Husted, kicker for the Who's, class of '93. Also was an all-state kicker for Hampton High School for legendary coach Mike Smith. Michael had a 9-year NFL career, mostly with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he holds some records that still stand today. I believe they still stand. And he's had a fascinating career in business. He's done some sports management type applications. He's done some camps for kickers. He's got a coaching business for kickers, doing some NIL and some personal investing. Mike, nice to meet you. Did I get most of that correct?
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah, it's a lot. You just weren't a football player. You did quite a lot in your career. So,
being a kicker, you got to kind of keep things humble. You can never get too high, get too low. So you got to kind of keep things even.
Yeah. Well, as a kicker, you started kicking when all the kickers became soccer style kickers. The toe kickers were just about finished. My high school teammate Joel Dempsey was a toe kicker at Robinson, and he ended up I think he kicked off, but he's mostly a punter. So by the time you were coming in, they're mostly soccer style kickers by then. How has kicking changed through the years? I know you're heavily involved in it for coaching. Is it a much different game than it was when you played?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I first started kicking, and it's a pretty funny story. I was in ninth grade, and we I was still junior high. Like the next year when I went to 10th, they brought the ninth grade as a freshman. So I was in junior high. They'd gotten rid of like junior high sports, and so me and some buddies were at the mall playing at the arcade. They were playing Tecmo Bowl, and some girls we knew that were cheerleaders for a local Pop Warner team or city team, came by and said, "Hey, look, this team, they need players. It's short." And we'd always done well at Sandlot football, and I was like, "Man, let's do it. Let's go out and play." So our parents said we could, so we go out in the Northampton Bulldogs, and right at the end of practice, I'm thinking, okay, I can do quarterback, wide out, safety, and play goalie in soccer pretty quick. And we're all along the sideline, and coach goes, "All right, who here can kick?" And I kind of bend over and I look down the sideline each way, and I don't understand anything. I go, "I play soccer." He's like, "All right, you're the kicker." So I go out there, and he's like, "Here's what you do. Here's the block." Back then you could use a big block, and he's like 3 steps back, 2 over. And it'd been raining, and it was like not great turf and grass, and so I go to approach, and I plant, and I flip, and I bust my butt, and here in ninth grade. So I'm thinking like, man, everyone's gonna go back. They're gonna tell all the girls. Everyone's gonna laugh at me. Like I'm screwed, And so I get up and I try, Tom and Joel Dempsey style, like straight on, and did it pretty well, And I said, well, let me try soccer style again. And so I go and I hit it even better. So I look at my coach and said, "Coach, which way do you want me to kick it?" He said, "Son, I don't care if you kick it with your ass. Just get that thing to the uprights." And back then in Pop Warner, extra points, kicking it were 2 points versus running it in. So we had a couple of games where we won like 8-7, 8-6, 8-7. And so that got me going. And I was actually zoned in a different high school, or not zoned, but the team I was on was for Bethel High School, which is where Allen Iverson went. Now was zoned for Hampton. So their coach came out and he's trying to recruit me like, "Hey, do you have any relatives that live in this area?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm going to Hampton. I'm going to be a crabber." So I got my sophomore year, and just worldwide experience. Just did kickoffs a little bit of my sophomore year. We had a senior, and we were kind of comparable. So Coach Smith was like, "Hey, he's a senior. You have 2 more years. We're going to let him have it." I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool." So my senior year, I took over. I did punting and field goals and kickoffs. And went to the state championship sophomore, junior, senior year. Won 1 out of 3, and we won 2 out of 3. So my sophomore year we beat TC Williams, which is like, remember the Titans.
Yeah.
And then we beat Salem my junior year, and then my senior we played TC Williams again, and we lost, in the last minute to them. So going to Hampton High School was great because being powerhouse. You got a lot of colleges coming in. So I had, smaller schools like Women there. I was going to say JMU, but I don't want to call them small anymore. You know, 'cause,
They're favored against us this weekend.
yeah, let's not even touch that game this weekend. But you know, so and then Appalachian State came in, and everything was seemed good. I thought I was going to have a full ride there, and last minute, the coach says, "Hey, look, coach wants to go with somebody else," and so I'm like, you know, past signing day, and I don't know where I'm going to go yet. You know, so it wasn't until really like April of May, my senior year, where Coach O'Brien came in and was like, "Hey, look, Michael, we've been keeping our eye on you. And Coach Smith's been keeping us, you know, abreast of what's going on. We didn't know if we were going to have a spot, but you know, we want to offer you a preferred walk-on spot. You have the grades, everything you need." And I was like, "I'm in," you know. And so, very fortunate to have an opportunity to go to Virginia, do it a million times over and over again. You know, my first year class, I mean, we had Yusuf Jackson, you know, we had Ricky Pete, who was Calvin Pete, you know, we already had Scott Greasy, Bob Greasy's son there. I mean,
That's right.
you know, it's like who's name on our roster.
Yeah.
Great guys, and redshirted my first year, and then going into my second year, you know, Jake McInerney was starting kicker. He'd won it fair and square, but I knew I could beat him out on kickoffs, and so you know, we competed, and after like the second game, I went up to Coach Walsh's office and said, "Hey, Coach, I can help this team win. I really want an opportunity to try to kick off, and so we'll compete this week." And I did, and I, you know, won handily. And then I think we were playing William Mary, and it was like the last, we were like 63 something, and so it was like the last kickoff, and I get to go in and I put it through the uprights, you know. So from that point on, I did kickoffs for the rest of the year. We went to Citrus Bowl. Next year, when we were ranked #1 for 3 weeks, I was only kickoffs, and then you know, last 2 years I did field goals and kickoffs. So you know, didn't really have a, you know, stellar junior year field goal wise. I think I was 11-17, 13-16 my senior year, but my kickoffs were Richter. And so you know, John Gamble, our special team coach, or strength and conditioning coach, and you know, all these scouts were coming in and looking at Terry Kirby and Chris Slade and Greg Jeffries, and you know, I was like, "Oh, that's nice." And then John Gamble, you know, said, "Hey, Michael, come here." He's like, "You know, I know you see all these teams coming in and out because most of them are asking about you." You know, and I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute." And so, but nothing really transpired. I didn't go to any All-Star games. Didn't get invited to the combine, and nothing really happened until we had our pro day at Virginia, and that was back when it was in the cage, you know. And so all those guys were working out in there. Jared Washington, Greg Jeffries, you know, Kirby, all those guys, and you know, I went up to every single scout.
Yeah, so out of 32 teams, only one scout came out. It was the Vikings. Had a career workout day. And afterwards, he goes, "Hey, look," he goes, "we have Fuad Revez, who's all pro. You know, we have a kicker, but I tell you what, you know, you can kick in this league." And so I'm going to go back and write up a report. All the teams are going to get it. And as soon as he did, like Mel Kiper chirped about me. And the next thing you know, I had the Bengals coming in to work me out. And so Marv Braden was a special teams coach, and comes in and he's like, "All right, we're going to go to the stadium." You know, so it's probably like, I don't know, March or April, you know, and it was, you know, Charlottesville weather. So it was like 45 and kind of drizzly. And, you know, so we go to the stadium, and opens up his trunk, and he busts out like 6 brand new footballs. And it's like, you know, if you ever kick a brand new football, it's like trying to play baseball with a brand new glove. You know, there's just not much movement to it. So, and back then you could kick off a 3-inch high kickoff tee, and that's what they did. So I'd never done that. So did okay on field goals, kickoffs. I get popped them under, and I was like, "Oh man, well, there goes this opportunity." Well, then next week, George Stewart, who's special teams coach of the Bucks, calls me up. He goes, "Hey, I'm in town. I want to work you out." So we go outside. I'm kicking great. Big storm comes through. We're in the locker room, and it's just us, and basically 45 minutes just getting to know each other and go out and kick great. So, you know, after that, I didn't know what was going to happen. That was the first year. The draft was 8 rounds. It had been 12 rounds for many years prior. And then the year after I came out, they went down to 7, which is where they are now. So near the end of the draft, you know, Vikings and Dolphins called. They wanted to sign me. And then the Bucks called, but they had actually drafted a guy at the very last pick, Mr. Irrelevant. And I told my agent, I said, "Hey, let's go to Tampa because they want to go young." So I went there. They had a draft pick. They had Eddie Murray, who'd been with the Lions for a long time, and they had another guy who bounced around. And I was like, all right, it's four of us, which was kind of unheard of. And so went in and duked it out, and last man standing. So, a lot of luck, a lot of variables. I told people, to kick in the NFL, 25% is it. You have to have the skill set to do it. The other 25% is you have to capitalize on those opportunities, which aren't many. The other 50 is luck. There are a lot of guys who are better than me that never made it, but I was given an opportunity. I capitalized on it. And I was fortunate enough to, play 9 years in the NFL. So no complaints.
Well, Michael, so you're talking about some of it is luck, some of it is it's just skill, or 25% of it is just having the talent to do it. When I was talking to Jake McInerney, he made it describe like he wasn't even really in the mix. He was in Tampa in camp, and he just made it sound like it was a different league than it was at UVA. And he was a very accurate kicker, but he made it sound like he just was not in the mix. So what is the big difference of a guy like Jake, who was almost perfect at UVA? He wasn't, didn't have your kind of range, but he was incredibly accurate. Is this just a matter of having the upside?
Yeah, I mean, Jake was an amazing accurate kicker. Just a great guy. But I think it was the kickoffs. It was a leg strength. A lot of colleges with high school guys and even NFL coaches, they get enamored by that big leg, and the fact that I could put the ball through the end zone whenever I wanted. A lot of coaches are like, well, we can fine tune and we can kind of get them, become accurate. And so I think having that, and that's a skill set, right? You got to be able to have that pop, as I call it, to do it. A lot of guys can kick field goals just fine. I had a lot of coaches over the years tell me that. He goes, we need someone who can, get the ball in the end zone when we need it. And so, I think that was the differentiator right there. Is I had the ability to crank the ball, and I just had to work my accuracy a little bit better, and I did.
Yeah. What was your relationship growing up in Hampton with some of the guys that you'd play with later, like Jason Wallace, Terry Kirby, Slade? I'm sure a lot of the guys on the other teams.
Todd Kelly, all these guys. Yeah.
I think Ray Savage is probably.
Ray Savage. Yep.
Yeah. What was your relationship with those guys growing up? Did you know who they were? And were you different because you were a kicker, or were you one of the guys?
I mean, I knew who they were. They probably didn't know who I was, and I remember my sophomore year, we actually went up to Charlottesville, for like there's like a 4 or 5 team, like scrimmage jamboree, and Warwick High School was one of them. So it was Ray Savage's senior year. And we were like, who is this beast? And so, played against Jason Wallace and didn't know him, but until I got to UVA. But, once you get there and you kind of have that 757 connection, it kind of means something. And so got to know them well throughout through my career at UVA. And there's just something to say about, coming from that area. I mean, if you look at like the Peninsula District, where our high schools, it's Hampton, Bethel, Warwick, Lafayette. So, Tyrod Taylor, Ronald Curry, me. Then, Bethel, you had Jason Wallace, but you had Allen Iverson, right? And then Warwick, you had the Vic brothers, and all different times, of course. In Lafayette, you had Lawrence Taylor and Ron Springs, so the talent that has come out of the Tidewater area is pretty impressive. So it's just, it's one of those things where you kind of know that, and just kind of being from that area, they kind of knew who I was, but they got to know me better while we were at school.
So a lot of people might not know about Mike Smith. Mike Smith was a legendary coach, and I don't think he retired that long ago. He won numerous state championships at Hampton High School. What were some of the keys to his success? What did you learn from him as your coach?
Discipline. Mm-hmm. I think at any high school level, you got to have discipline. And they were, him, Coach Mann was one of our assistants, Coach Mitchell. And they, this is back when you could do bull in the ring,
Yeah.
So we had to do that, kickers. And so it's just one of those things where I think the sense of like, we call it Crabber pride, just the heritage of Hampton High football just kind of spoke for itself. And so we had, we didn't have that many, I think, better athletes in any other school. We just were really disciplined, and Coach Smith had a really simplified system for the offense. and so that was huge. And so I think just being part of that was huge. And so college, you still need discipline, but then get in the NFL. If you're not disciplined, you're not going to be around long, right? And so it's your livelihood. But I've seen, like, I've coached high school out here in San Diego for a bunch of years, and you see, like, the lack of discipline, on teams. And so I would definitely say discipline was the number one thing. I mean, there's no room for error. Like, if you're late, if you talk back, if you did something wrong, there are going to be consequences for it.
Yeah. I believe you live in one of my favorite places in the world, Del Mar. So if coaching football there must be a nice gig. So Hampton, that area, there's a documentary about the race relations that and a lot of it the Allen Iverson situation when there was a brawl, and there's a great documentary about life in Hampton Roads in the Peninsula. How did you view the race relations from your point of view? Now, I'm sure most of the top athletes in the football field in that area are probably African American. Did you feel accepted, and did people get along pretty well on the field?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was one of 3 white guys on our whole high school team, but I never really saw color. I mean, I grew up like friends that of all shape, size, color, whatever, and so it was just something that I thought was normal, growing up and going to Boys and Girls Club or going to elementary school, going to junior high, going to high school. So it was never something that, I thought was a divisive, line. But that was just me. I'm sure people who are older generations, maybe they did. But for me, it was just, that's what I thought life was all about, no matter where you were.
Yeah. You also talked about how you were going to Appalachian State, kind of ended up at UVA by chance, thank goodness. And then, you were undrafted and you had a great career with Tampa. Are things more deliberate now in terms of finding kickers? Do we do a better job of finding out where the talent is, or is there still a chance for guys to kind of slip through the cracks and to prove themselves at a high level?
Yeah, I think there is still that opportunity. I mean, you saw it this year with the Saints. Will Lutz is a friend of mine. I think pretty much what I understood, won the battle in New Orleans, but it was coming last year with a really expensive contract. They had this young kid who'd done really well, and they're kind of in that rebuilding stage. So he came in and he was given an opportunity, and he made the most of it, right? Joey Sly in Washington, I worked with him, Virginia Tech, albeit, but it took him a little while, but he had some opportunities and he capitalized on it. So there are a lot of guys out there that can do it. It's just a matter if you can get yourself, it's like musical chairs. You can get yourself in that front of that seat when the music stops, then you have a good opportunity. But I still think, like, you look at, the thing about kicking is you're not competing with someone on the other side of the ball, right? You're competing with yourself. It doesn't matter if you're, Division 1, 2, 3, the uprights are the same width, the ball is the same, the conditions, no matter what division you're in, could be the same. So it's more of a competition with yourself. So I think, you're seeing more guys come out of D2, like Adam Vintieri was a D2 guy. Greg Zerline was a D2 guy. So you're seeing a lot of opportunity. I think, previously the scouts were like, I still think it's kind of that way. Like, if there's a short list of guys that a team works out, because whenever you have a workout, the next day, every other team gets a list of who that team worked out. So I think, again, kickers being at the bottom of the totem pole, I think they get that list and like, oh, we got to bring somebody in. Okay, they just use this list instead of really kind of doing their due diligence. The ones who do due diligence, I think they can uncover some diamonds in the rough. You look at Justin Tucker, wasn't drafted, had like me, like, average, okay, college career, but then something clicked, and then he's probably arguably going to be one of the best kickers of all time. Robbie Gould, Penn State, was a 6% college kicker, and then he turned out to be a great kicker. So it's a mental mindset, it's maturity. But I think it all stems back to, being able to kick the ball pretty far and pretty high. And so, but yeah, I think there's still opportunities for guys that aren't, at the big school, big programs, Power Five, to get an opportunity if they're in the right place, right time, and they only get one shot, but they got to come through when they get it.
Yeah. Is it better for the kickers now that there's a more established long snapper? There are people that just practice this. So, UVA is going to have their long snapper, one or two long snappers, probably the holder or someone who practices that more. Does that make the kicking job any easier these days?
Oh, absolutely. I think what's more important is, when I was coming through the ranks, I mean, there was only one camp in the whole country. Now there's like a kicking camp on every corner. And so, and it's become more specialized. So I see kids, like I played at all sports all the way through high school. I see kids, and I've worked with kids who are going in 8th grade or 9th grade, and they're quit everything just to focus on kicking. So, and you're getting guys who, maybe were, soccer players growing up, but maybe in high school they played linebacker or, something else, but they could kick the ball really far. And they're like, well, I'm not going to play linebacker in college, I can still kick it, and then they're big and strong. And so they kind of hone it up. But I think that the skill set has become very specialized. They're like anything else, good coaches, bad coaches, but the ones that find the right coaches, can help these kids out. Like, so, I mean, I was flying, by the seat of my pants, learning how to teach myself. What I was able to do when I was playing in the NFL, I had access to every game film out there. So, I could go and watch Morton Anderson, Gary Anderson, Jason Elam, Jason Hansen, all these amazing kickers. And so I kind of developed what I thought was a philosophy on what it would take to be the most efficient kicker. And I kind of like try to, got myself to kick that way near the end of my career. And then that's kind of what I took with me when I started working with guys. And so I think there's a lot more access to, video and learning and teaching. Some guys don't teach it, the best way. I'm not saying it's the wrong way, but it's not the best way. And some guys are. So I think there's access to good instructors out there that there wasn't when I was coming through.
Yeah. So, Michael, when you went to UVA, did you redshirt or did you play right away?
Yeah, redshirted.
Redshirt. So what was your relationship with the student body at UVA? So here you are, the athletes stuck out at UVA, especially the football, basketball players, because they're a lot bigger than the average student. But you're a kicker, so you're probably about the same size as me or a lot of our students. So what was your relationship as a redshirt, and then as a guy who didn't you weren't kicking the field goals or the extra points yet?
Yeah, it was great. College is college, right? And so, what I ended up doing is spring of my first year, I rushed fraternities and I ended up joining Sigma Chi. So Keith McMeans was a Sigma Chi, Doug Dunkel, Duty Hunt, all these guys, Steve Ewers. And I like that because it kind of gave me two fraternities, right? I had the football team that was a fraternity, so to speak, and I had, the Greek fraternity. And so it allowed me to have balance in my life socially, so I was able to, have friends on the football team and hang out with them, and, and then also another group of friends outside of it. So I felt that was important to me to belong to a fraternity, to kind of spread my wings, to get to know a lot of people. A lot of guys on the football team don't, but for me, that was important to me. And so, I felt like I was more of like a college student who was on the football team and not vice versa.
Yeah. So you started kicking, doing the kickoffs, and you were the kickoff kicker during the historic 1990 season. We went to the Sugar Bowl. We're number one briefly, and just incredible season. What are some of your thoughts from that season? Now your role wasn't as big as the next two seasons when you were kicking field goals and point after touchdowns. But what are your thoughts of the 1990 season?
It was exciting. The year before we'd gone to the Citrus Bowl, which was a first New Year's Day bowl. We played Illinois, which was Jeff George's last year. But it was like, I was like, whoa, okay, we got to go down to Orlando for a week. And we're playing in this big game, and it was just new. It was exciting. It was novel, and and then a little bit less stressful because all it was doing was kickoffs. Even though can't muff it up, but those 2 years, like, Citrus Bowl and Sugar Bowl, it allowed me to really absorb it. Whereas, if I was doing everything, I would have been a little bit more focused and kind of like filtered out some of those things. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. Well, I've talked about the 1990 season so many times with so many of the players, Jason Wallace, Tony Covington, Nicky Fisher. But I haven't talked about the 91 season very often. And, it was actually a great season. We began the season and we lost to Georgia Tech. We lost to Maryland, the two teams that really helped our season to unravel. But then we went on a huge winning streak. Matt Blunden had an unbelievable year. I think he had like 19 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So tell us about the 91 season and some of your memories from that season.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought we started out like 5-0 and we were like ranked 10th, and then Clemson came in town. And we were up like pretty decent at halftime, and they came back. And I think they went up 29-28. And we had a chance last play of the game to go for a 57-yarder. And George Welch decided to go for a Hail Mary. And I was almost like ready to go on the field. But we called for a Hail Mary. We obviously didn't win it. So what I did the very next Monday in practice while he was watching, I went out there and hit like 5 57s in a row, and so, but, and then we, faltered after that, but, wait, maybe that was my last year. No, yeah, you're right. That was a 92 season. Sorry. 91, Matt Blunden was great leader, played basketball, got a chance to, two different quarterbacks between him and Sean Moore. And then even Bobby Goodman after him. But, Matt was a great quarterback. We ended up, it was fun. I mean, we ended up going to the Gator Bowl, another, big bowl game for us 3 years in a row. Unfortunately we ran into Oklahoma. I remember though, like Oklahoma was in the media going, oh, we're going to pass, we're going to throw. And, they're still kind of running the wishbone back then. And I don't think we prepared for the pass. And sure enough, they came out and lit us up. But it's, 0 for 3 in bowl games, but, personally 3-0 because I just had a blast at every bowl game I went to. Not many people get that opportunity. And so it was an exciting time to be on a, UVA football team.
Yeah, well, but also, what was the adjustment to kicking the field goals, to being under pressure? And how did you learn how to relax? At your last season, I believe you're 13 for 16. Your senior season was unbelievable, but it took you a little bit of time to get in your rhythm, just like it did Jake. What was the key to you relaxing and being able to focus and make those field goals?
It was my first year kicking field goals against Clemson at Death Valley. And so I'd hit like a 48 and a 32 already in the game. And, we'd have time 2020, but it's like 6 or 7 seconds left. And this is before they had overtime. And we go out for a 34-yarder to win it. Yeah, I was nervous. I hadn't done any mental training. I didn't know what to do. But we go out there and, hit a little low. But I didn't think too low, but they got a good push on our line. And I can't remember, maybe LeVon Kirkland, I'm not sure, but someone got their hand up and it literally hit the pinky and it fluttered off wide right. And if it was LeVon Kirkland or someone else, but about, 8 years ago, there was an article and he was talking about that game where he's like, we're going to lose UVA, and the ball literally hit my pinky, and fluttered off. So, it was also, that stadium on game day back then was 86,000 strong, and it was kazoo day. So they had 86,000 kazoos. And, before that game, I loved kazoos, grew up with them. And, well, after I missed that kick, it's like now if I hear the kazoo, I kind of Ray Finkel and I kind of, trigger. And if I see like a little kid with a kazoo in his mouth, I'll go knock it out of his mouth, but what that did was I never wanted to feel that way again. And I said, what do I have to do to become better at my job? And that's when I really started focusing on the mental side of it. And so, I look at it as a 3-pronged approach. You have your program you follow in a weight room. You have a program that you follow on a field. And so, but you got to have a program between the years, and you know, mental training, you know, even back then, like, you know, if you went to see a sports psychologist, people were like, oh, well, what's wrong with you? You know, and it's, you know, there might still be a slight stigma today, but back then there was. Now it's like, you know, it's part of the process. In fact, you know, I started working with Dr. Fiad Youssef, who's also a UVA student, grew up in Charlottesville, got his master's and PhD from UVA under Bob Rotella. And so I worked with him, and to this day, I have a handful of guys, Jason Myers, who's with the Seahawks, that work with him, you know, talk with him every week. He puts together a great program for it. So that's what's really, I think, the difference for me and anybody, especially, you know, when you know, what we do is 80-90% mental. You know, it's like a golfer, right? And so, but that game, the Clemson Kazoo game, that's what, you know, if I would have made that, I don't know if I would have, you know, but okay, everything's great, but never want to feel that bad again. You know, really made me have to, you know, dig deep inside to what do I need to do so I don't have to go through this again, and what do I need to, you know, to get better. And so, you know, I believe that you learn more from your failures and your successes, and that was definitely a failure that I learned from.
Yeah. Well, your senior year, you ended up being a semifinalist for the Lou Groza Award for top kicker. So you had a great season. But before that season, was the NFL on your radar? Were you that ambitious to think you can have a career, or was it after you did so well and you had that success where you started thinking about a career in the NFL?
I would hope anybody who's a starter in college has that ambition, right? You know, so I mean, I did. I mean, I did. You know, I had guys on the team, and I, you know, be doing scout kickoff, and they're like, dude, you're going to the NFL, man. You're booming the ball. But I knew that, you know, I had a leg strength, but I knew that, you know, I needed to be more accurate. And so, you know, I kind of, there's something deep down inside. I felt like, you know, I was going to make it. And it was interesting because after my rookie year, I went home back to Hampton from Tampa and hanging out with my mom, you know, and we're watching one of the playoff game. And she's like, Michael, you know, I'm your mother and I love you, but I didn't think you were going to make it, you know. And I said, Mom, nobody did except for me, right? So, and you know, I guess the word now is manifest. I don't know, but you know, I just kind of I willed it, you know, and I wanted it. And I feel like I've always been an opportunist, and you know, so I could have gone to Miami, I could have gone to Minnesota, where I'd have just been like a camp leg, but I was like, hey, let's go toe to toe with this draft pick and two other guys, and let's see what happens, you know. So you know, that was the right decision to make.
Yeah. Well, you ended up playing for Sam Weich, former Cincinnati Bengals coach. And I knew Sam Weich because he was a Redskins assistant back when I was a kid. I'm sorry, a Redskin backup quarterback when I was a kid to Sonny Jurgensen and Billy Kimmer had been around a while. But the team struggled under Weich. It never really got going until Tony Dungy came in. What is it like kicking? And you were having success on a team that's not doing well. In a way, is it almost better in that the kicks don't mean life and death? It's not like you're going to the Super Bowl. Is it almost in some ways less pressure under that circumstance?
You know, I mean, you can look at it that way, but you know, I mean, you know, our livelihood is week to week, you know, right? So it's not like we have to learn a playbook. You know, they can cut you and bring somebody else in, right? So my rookie year, it was just so surreal for me that I didn't have time to worry about anything. You know, I didn't have time to be nervous. And you know, but it was still kind of rebuilding program. You know, Sam's second year with the Bucks, and you know, we still had some work to do. And so, you know, love Sam. You know, rest in peace. But great guy. You know, really smart man. Like almost too smart for his own good. You know, and I think he was more like, it's, you know, let me do it my way, or you know, and that's the way. Whereas you know, Tony came in, and that, you know, again, Tony has this quiet discipline aspect to him. And, you know, and he's more like, hey, buy into the system or we'll find somebody else who will, you know. And so, you know, you could just feel it, the change, you know, when Tony came into that, you know, when he took over. You know, obviously we knew who he was because he'd been the Vikings D coordinator, you know, for several years. And so, you know, but then, you know, but see, Sam had, you know, Sam's regime, tenure, you know, drafted, Sapp, drafted Brooks, and Lynch, and all these guys. So the pieces were there. And so then Tony came in and, implemented that Tampa 2 defense, which you got to have, a line that can penetrate. But the key with that defense is you got to have, linebackers that can drop back in coverage. And so having someone like Derek Brooks and Hardy Nickerson, like they could drop back and cover that underneath. So tight ends can go underneath the safeties that were back deep. Right. So, he had the pieces there to work with. It was probably, it's the scheme, right? And so he came in with the right scheme, his discipline, and again, it's everyone buying into the system, and I think that was the big difference right there.
Yeah, it's so hard. It seems to change culture. Tampa Bay, unfortunately, were kind of like lovable losers early in their expansion history. They didn't win a game, and they had John McKay was a great college coach. He finally had some success. But Tampa Bay had struggled, and Dungy really did turn that culture around. Is it difficult to change culture on the pro level?
I don't think so. I think the difficulty is keeping your roster together nowadays, right? So you look at what Mike Tomlin, another Tidewater guy, went to MMA. Look what he's done in Pittsburgh. You look at look at Jim Harbaugh, right? I mean, took over the Niners, 2-14 after, he started out here at USD, and his first, year they were 15-1. He goes to Stanford, gets that program turned around, and goes to the Niners and gets them turned around. So I think it's the philosophy. I think it's the way that you treat, the men that you work with. And Tony treated us like men, like you didn't call him coach. First thing he says, like, call me Tony. And so it was one of those things where he was very approachable. And you believed in him, like you're like, this guy there's just something about him. And I could never really figure out what it was about him, because he's not a yeller. He wasn't a screamer, wasn't a rah guy. And I can never really put my finger on what it was about him that made him such a great coach. And when he had won the Super Bowl with the Colts, I think maybe it was Terrence Mathis or something. It was like, Espin, the magazine they had back then. And they had a big article. And at the very end of the article, they asked him, said, what is it about Tony, that makes him so great? And he said, you just don't want to disappoint him. I was like, that's it. And that speaks volumes for someone who's like a peer. That, it's almost like a father figure. You don't want him disappointed in you. And you didn't, you respected him and you loved him so much that last thing you want him doing is being disappointed in you. So it's like that. I don't know, that's the reason. I don't know what you call it, but there's just kind of this quiet charisma, respect that he has, and very, very, very intellectual man. I mean, like guys could be off the, mark and defense, and, no one would recognize it but him. I mean, he's pretty special human being. One of the overall best human beings I've ever met and, been able to interact with in my life.
Well, do you think it was helpful to him that he was such a good defensive back? I'm a Steeler fan. He played for the Steelers. Did that help his credibility with the players?
Well, he played quarterback in high school.
That's right. He did. Yeah.
So he went to the University of Minnesota. So he played quarterback, went to the Steelers, and they converted him to DB. And he played 1 year, and he told us his story one time. It's pretty funny. He goes, here I am, training camp my second year, and I'm in a dorm room with, like me, Joe Green, and, Jack Lambert, and, all these like future Hall of Famers. He goes, and the door knocks, and it's the Turk, and he goes, I know who he's after. He knew it was him. And so he got released in training camp, but he'd been such a good, he picked up the defense fast that, Chuck Noll invited him to come on and be like, quality control or an assistant for DBs. And that's where he got his first start. So I think, for him having the opportunity to coach under Chuck Noll, was pretty important as well.
Yeah. Well, what about being a kicker? Like, I know you kicked in Washington for the Redskins under Rubisky. When when you miss a field goal, when you don't win, the whole city in Washington is depressed. I mean, it's football means the Redskins mean the Commanders mean so much to the town. When you have that burden over your shoulders, you're on a Sunday, you're getting ready to kick, and if you make this field goal, they win, they lose. People are going to be depressed until like midweek. Does that something that's on your mind when you're a pro kicker?
It might be, but you've got to learn how to filter it out, anybody who says they don't get nervous on game day, I'm going to, call them a liar. Right. I remember watching an interview with Jerry Rice. He was with the Raiders. He's like, look, I've been playing for 18 years and I still get nervous on game day. He's like, it's all about how you manage it, so I think you have to learn how to, manage that. But also, it comes with the territory, right? You got to have a thick skin as a kicker. You have to know what the risks and rewards are. And so if you dwell on what the risks are, then, you're not going to be good at what you do instead of like focusing on what the rewards can be and focus on what you're doing right instead of focusing on what you're doing wrong.
Yeah. Was it difficult for you as your career came to an end? I mean, your identity was wrapped up in being a kicker and being a professional football player. And obviously you're a smart guy and you've done really well. But at the time of that transition, was it tough for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of like, what am I going to do now? I had some things already in the works, but, you never go out on your own terms. In fact, after Washington, and funny story about that is, I signed and I hit the game winner against the Bucks. The next week we go to Philly and really windy, missed a couple of kicks, but I hit the game winner. And so this is, I guess, probably bit me in the butt, but it's a principle and integrity thing. But we were going into the locker room after the game and Daniel Snyder was high-fiving everyone going to the locker room, and I didn't high-five him. And went right by him. And so a few minutes later, I saw him talking to North Turner in the middle of the locker room, looking at me, and I'm like, well, I'm getting cut, right? But at that time, he paid all that money in 2000, like the other years. You had Deion Sanders, you had Andre Reed, you had Bruce Smith to buy a Super Bowl, and you can't do that. Love and respect North Turner all day long. Brilliant offense coordinator. I just don't know if he was cut out to be, a head coach. I mean, not to knock him or slide him by any means, but being here in San Diego, Sean Heimer gets fired after 14-2. If the guy just goes down after he picks off Brady, they win that game. But he fumbles it, they get back, they win. But you had AJ Smith, the GM, and they kind of butt heads. So North comes in with a team, all ready to go. And then next year they go to the AFC Championship, lose to Pittsburgh. And then every year they kind of did one, game less than they had the year before. And so, I just think that it was, trying to, paychecks, you can't buy a championship team, no matter what you do. You look out here now, we got the Padres and they got a lot of money on all these players, and we're probably not even going to make the playoffs this year. So, and that's one of the things Tony would always say is like, look, we're not going to have the best 53 guys at each position. We're going to have the best 53 guys that give us an opportunity to win. Yeah. But Washington was just, it was more of a nightmare, I think, overall. Learned from it. But so after that, I sat out a year, and I was ready to move on. And then I did a gut check and started working out again, and got back in shape, started making tapes, sending it out. And someone out to Tony Dungy, and he was in India at this point. And he's like, hey, this looks really good. I'm like, hey, I'm not looking to come in there. You guys have Mike Vanderjagt, but if anybody calls, hey, being throw me a good word. It's like, absolutely. Well, Vanderjagt wasn't really kicking off that well. And so they brought me in with a bunch of guys to be a kickoff specialist, and I won the job. But at the end of the preseason, there just wasn't enough distance, separating me and Vanderjagt on kickoffs for them to justify keeping a kicker on the roster, So, but it's one of those things where, but I'm glad I got back in. I had a couple of workouts and then finished up, that last half of the season with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mhm.
And my very last field goal was a game winner, against the Chargers to knock them out of the playoffs. And so
Wow, that's awesome.
they say you're only good as your last kick, right? So, but getting out of it done, I was already living in here in Del Mar, Solana Beach. And the reason why I moved here is I was a rookie in '93 with John Lynch.
Hmm.
And John Lynch is from Solana Beach. He went to Torrey Pines High School where I coached. And I came out to his wedding after a rookie year, and I was like, "What is this place out
It is
here?"
amazing.
And I'm like, "I'm moving out here one day." And so after my year at the Raiders, I didn't know where I was going to be yet. So had a daughter who's only like not even a year old yet. So we came down and set up shop here in Solana Beach, and have been here ever since. But when I was out that year, I was sending all the beta tapes out because that's what these coaches were still using. And it was like $500 for every workout that I filmed. So I got together with a fellow UVA, fraternity brother. And this was before YouTube came out. I said, "Hey, is the internet to a point where, we can stream video?" Because, yeah, I'm working with this new program called Flash. So we developed a website called MikeHusted.com where I could upload the video. I could send that link out to teams. If I called them up, they didn't have to search for a DVD. They could go right to the website, click on it and see. So that got me, several workouts, and it got me back in the league for another year. And then I thought, hey, if this worked for me, what about the multitude of student athletes that fly under the radar out there? So I kind of took my Husted.com and I started iPlayers.net, which is a recruiting tool for high school student athletes, for colleges, and kind of built that up, and then sold it a couple years later to a company that used to be out here called Active Network or Active.com. And so it's just, out of necessity, things happen, right? So if I hadn't set out that year, I wouldn't have developed that website, and I wouldn't have converted into, the business idea. So, there's always good and bad, right? You can always find something out of a negative. And so I think, being an opportunist, you have to do that.
Yeah. Well, what about your player camps that you did? Now you had a business where you guys would do camps, and then you had a rating system for players.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you still involved in that as well?
COVID kind of knocked that out, like when you couldn't get on field, and a lot of the competition is ranking these guys for colleges. It's very subjective. And so before, I've been working on an algorithm, actually, I call it the kicking index, where I'd worked with a physics professor at University of Illinois who had done a study similar with baseball. And so we were taking like the wind and the elevation, temperature, speed, barometric pressure, direction, and normalizing that score. So if I was a high school kid kicking in Dallas with a strong wind at my back versus, Florida, we could compare apples to apples versus not having that. So I still have that on the back burner, but I'm just kind of getting burned out, and I wanted to, do something different. I still train guys. I still enjoy getting out there and doing it. But COVID just kind of, I just pivoted once COVID hit.
Yeah. What about the NIL? Now I know you're involved in NIL, and I mean, that seems like it's such a great opportunity for players to make some money. I think we're still trying to figure out how to harness all these new tools with the portal, the NIL, and the free transfer that's going. Yeah. So what about?
I wish we'd had that when we were going through the ranks.
No, exactly. And maybe there's some good and some bad with it. But what are your thoughts on NIL, and you see the opportunity there?
Yeah, I mean, I've really dove deep into it, did a deep dive about 4 or 5 months ago. Because I have a couple of buddies who played for San Diego State out here, and they went to a meeting, and the first thing that popped up all over were these collectives. And so and so he comes back as, "Man, I don't know, they want us to give money, but there's no transparency on what they're going to do with the money." And I was kind of started reading that with all these other colleges. And so and that's why there is people out there, coaches and senators, who want some sort of federal legislation on NIL, because right now it's based off of state by state, school by school. So, if you're Texas, I think they just said NIL is legal, and that's pretty much all the bill read, so they can do whatever they want, what they're doing at UVA with Cavs Future, they're doing it the right way. I've talked to Doug Dunkel, who was involved in it, and they're really trying to do it the right way. But, as far as UVA goes, majority of it goes to basketball, obviously so. But right now it's football and basketball dominate the NIL space. I think there is going to be, something maybe 2-3 years. I don't think NIL is going away. I think there's going to be more tighter reins pulled on these collectives. And they're not all equal. Like, have insight from University of South Carolina, they may run out of money by the middle of the football season, whereas you have like Ole Miss, SEC territory. That people just donate. But I think also that model may not last too long because you're going to get donor fatigue. I mean, if I'm supporting like say San Diego State and they don't get any better and they go in the other direction, it's going to be hard for me to write that check. And these collectives, it's all donor based. So what I'm doing is not the marketplace. I mean, not the collective. It's more of a marketplace.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to go too deep into it, give away the secret sauce. But
Right.
if there is some legislation out there, it won't affect us whatsoever. I mean, we're just getting started with it. There aren't many players in the space that we're trying to get into, and our focus is going to be not so much football and basketball. It's going to be all the other sports. And same thing with my iPlayers.net. Like those sports and those athletes that are flying under the radar, but they're really good influencers. They have really strong social media presence. Because the top guys, like Caleb Williams out here in SC, they're going to get seen. They're going to get the big dollar deals. But there are a lot of smaller brands out there that don't have the big marketing budget. So, if you can connect them, so now you can bring athletes and these brands together. I think that's going to be a win-win for everybody. And the industry itself, like in the first year, is like a $780 million industry. This year, it's poised to be like 1.2 billion, and in about 5 years, it's going to be a $6 billion industry. So there's money to be made out there for everybody. I think you just have to do it the right way, find the right people to do it with, and then be in it for the long haul.
You think it's going to help kickers? I mean, will Michael Husted have a NIL deal, or just like Terry Kirby and Chris Slade have, or is it going to be a situation where you have some of the players on the team making a couple $100,000 a year, and then like the kicker might not have a deal at all?
Yeah, so that's the other thing with the collective, right? So I don't think they're giving everybody on the team equal disbursements. Some say they are. I don't think they are.
Mhm.
I think it's all about marketability. So it's all about social media presence. So like if Terry Kirby, Chris Slade only have like 50 followers and I have like 50,000, then I'm going to be attractive to a brand that's trying to get something out there. Because if I tweet or X or Instagram post or whatever, I'm going to have a lot of people seeing it and spreading the word and engaging with it. And so that's what you want as a brand, to kind of get the word out and market it. So I don't think it's going to be so much for like the smaller brands or not the top Nikes and all that. Like, if you're, a new, apparel company or something like that, I think, what's the best way to get the word out efficiently? And I think, going after people who have really strong social media presence, that's going to be the way to do it.
So basically, and I talked to Noah Kroom about this. Noah was my law school classmate. He was there when you were kicking, but he said for most athletes, your NIL payment is going to be tied to your social media presence. So, a lot of times we're telling athletes, get off social media and work on your craft, but actually they need to do both if they want to make a lot of money.
Yeah, and I think you get the top guys who, oh, I don't need to do that, and they won't. But I think the smart, savvy people will. You look at that female gymnast at LSU. I mean, they're just a lot of examples that and just overall in general, I think a lot of college athletes, student athletes, they've increased their social media presence just with the emergence of NIL. So it's like anything else. I mean, if you're a good student athlete, you can become a good business person, because you are your brand, right? It's your brand, it's your story. I mean, that's one thing that they really try to hammer home in the NFL is like your name is your brand. And so if these college student athletes, can do it in a way that, they're marketable, I think they're going to have a lot of success. And what I really like about the NIL is, if you look at it demographically, a lot of football and basketball players. I mean, I grew up like in a working class family. My dad was military. There aren't many people coming from like the Richie Riches out there, and so and only 2% of the people make it to the professional level. And now they can take care of friends and family and kind of put money away. But the other 90% can't. Now they do have that opportunity, right? They can make some money. They can, take care of their mom and their dad, while they're in college. They can put money away, they can invest it. So whether they go pro or not, at least they have a good head start when they leave the college.
Yeah. Well, that's great, Mike. Well, look, last question. Would you wanted to perform to kick in today's game with the NIL, with the training's different, with the long snapper, all the changes in the game? Would you have enjoyed playing now, or did you like playing it when you came through and you had such success?
I think I would have enjoyed it now. I think the only difference was there's no social media when I was coming up, so kind of a lot of people get in trouble that way. So thank goodness, right? If you're at a fraternity party or something, like someone, click, So I mean, I remember like hearing stories of people who'd get scholarships taken away because they got, they were tagged in a photo doing something that they shouldn't have been doing, or maybe they were just in the room, So I'm thankful that we didn't have that. But I'd like to do it now. I think, especially now with all the uniform changes, like we just had the same old, but now when you have we wear the white, we wear the blue, UVA and all these different uniform combinations, that would have been kind of cool to do that, Seems like everybody goes to a bowl game this year, nowadays. So, and the payout for the bowl game, for the athlete is better. So, I always had a passion for it. I don't think that passion's ever died. So whether it's now or then, but hindsight's 2020. If I knew then what I knew now, what I know now, then I could have been even a better kicker.
Yeah. Well, you're a great kicker, Michael. I used to feel good when you were out in the field, and I thought the Hoos were going to win. But this has been great. Next time, occasionally I've been to Del Mar opening day in July. It should be a really fun day. Anyone who's ever seen that would actually want to live in Solano Beach or Del Mar as well. But yeah, next time I'm out, I'd love to meet you in person and to see how the locals actually live out there.
Yeah, let's do it. And then if I ever get back that way, I'll let you know.
That sounds great. Well, thanks again, Michael. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, no worries. Likewise, man. Thank you very much. I enjoyed being on here. Go
That's
Hoos.
great.